another episode of Data Dialogues. My name is Larissa Beggett. Hello, everyone. I head marketing here at Porch Group Media. And joining me today is Matt Collins. He is the Director of Product Marketing at Mountain. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Larissa. It's great to see you.
I'm going to let you kick off this slide, Matt. There's so many, I love a good marketing stat. So I'm like, ooh, and ah. So love for you to kind of share what you're seeing in the world of CTV today.
Well, thanks, Larissa, and great to be with you. I'll just say the very shorthand version of this slide here is that as go consumers in their rapid adoption of connected television, here when we talk about connected TV, we're talking about watching television through internet-enabled television sets where they're getting their content not over a cable wire and not over a satellite or not over digital bunny ears attached to your TV, but where they're getting it through the internet that's piped into our homes. And it's been said over the last several years that this is the golden age of television from a viewership perspective, with more content delivered more affordably than what we think of as the traditional cable bundles, because they're migrating from their cable packages and their what we think of as traditional TV to streaming. Advertisers are following suit. And so what we're seeing here is that in May of last year, so this is going on about a year-old stat, but nearly 40% of total TV usage time was spent on streaming. And that was then an all-time high. And I'm sure that when we go in to measure it again this May, it'll be a new all-time high, and it will continue to grow. And when we look at how that compares to other screens that we use and what we do on those screens, it's striking to me that adults spend 3 times the amount of each day in watching streaming television compared to what they spend on Meta, what we think of as Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp. So we're watching more streaming, and that compares much more favorably to things like social media.
Yeah. You had mentioned, so my mind went, like the days of the tinfoil rabbit ears, and just how far we have come. I remember getting cable for the first time. Yes, aging myself a little bit, but there was a big box, with a big long cord, connected to the TV. And so what I always loved about learning about CTV was, it's the cord cutters. And I know I no longer have cable. I'm sure many Americans have cut the cord. But so just this last weekend, my streaming, my streaming fun, I'm very into Love Island. And, so let me tell you, if you want to just binge a show like that, CTV, that's it for you.
Yeah, that's right. And we all, I think, have examples of this. Many of us do, of shows that we may not have been able to watch any other way except for streaming. But all of this consumer activity that's piling up in streaming compared to linear television is a big reason why, as you can see here, that 61% of advertisers are planning to increase their spend in connected TV, which it goes a long way in explaining why it's one of the fastest growing media channels in the industry.
The data is clearly showing that, the move is away from, I guess, what we consider like more of a traditional channel, like even TV, to, the data-driven capabilities of CTV. I mean, the stats don't lie. I love that. And, we all, like you said, have our own examples of I've cut cable, or I binged watched a show on, my streaming platform, or I just subscribed to a new platform because that's where the movie was that I wanted to watch. So what, could you kind of explain, what some of the bullet points that you've outlined here for us?
Yeah, what I want to emphasize is that streaming television really should be treated as a new opportunity. And I say that in the context of it's, what came before in the world of traditional linear television, what we got through cable, for example. The first TV ad aired almost 84 years ago for a company called Bulova, the timekeeping company. and it aired
I
during.
actually saw that commercial. I looked it
Oh
up
yeah.
not too long ago. It's funny. Yep.
I'm glad you did. But the really, since that first airing of that first ad in 1941, advertisers have gotten very good about using traditional television to achieve upper funnel goals. So here we would think of things like increasing brand awareness or brand resonance or brand reaction. Uh, but and linear sorry, connected TV is still good at doing all of the things that linear TV did, but connected TV runs on the same digital plumbing and wiring that powers paid search and social. And so I think the message that we give to a lot of advertisers and their agencies is think more broadly, think more imaginatively. Think about what you might do if you could get all the same branding benefits, because this is, still a 15 to 30-second TV commercial, still aired on the biggest screen in the home. But now imagine being able to layer on much richer audience data than a Nielsen, age, gender, demographic, and getting much more precise in your measurement. With that, you can really create not just an awareness building channel, but a way of generating all new demand on top of the media investment that you're making currently. And it's been proven that connected TV, once you run it, measurably improves the performance of some of those other channels, particularly paid search and social.
I love, it's almost, to me, they both have TV, in their, the words, but traditional TV seems like such an entirely different beast, and it, really is, than CTV, because when you bring in that data-driven targeting, precision targeting components of CTV, and really hone in on who you are trying to reach, it's just like it's a whole nother animal in and of itself. And so I think, and again, you and I have been talking about that a lot of traditional marketers who may have not used TV advertising in the past, suddenly CTV is pretty darn interesting. You attach the words data-driven, audience targeting, and so forth, and it's like, okay, tell me about it. This next slide, I think, is really, really great too, because again, this highlights a massive difference between traditional and CTV. And every marketer's dream is, what kind of reporting can I get on my spend? And I love this.
Yeah, I do too. And I say this as a former practitioner in traditional television. My very first job out of business school, I worked for a video game publisher that made video games that ran on PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo and PCs and Game Boys, and I'm dating myself, with some of that stuff. But I was fortunate enough that for some of those titles, I was able to run, as strategize and plan and then run television advertising. And I think one of the very first ones I ever did, I did a brand lift report. And I remember, it's been a minute, but I want to say that it cost me about $80,000, and it took about 12 weeks. And by the time I got it, my campaign had long been over. And it's not like I could take the results and go turn around and do anything with it. This is where, to your point, Larissa, the digital backbone of streaming television gives marketers access to tools that have never been available. And linear, by the way, I've said this on stage before, linear television right now is as good as it's ever going to be. But I liken it to sort of the internal combustion engine that runs in cars. They're as efficient as they're ever going to be. But electric has shown that it has all of the makings of being able to go past what linear can do in terms of efficiency, in terms of energy efficiency, in terms of lower maintenance costs. And streaming presents a similar dynamic when it comes to getting reporting right away and getting it in quote unquote real time, so that you can actually use that information to make better decisions about your ongoing campaign. You can work with platforms, Mountain is one of them, that will take the learnings that it acquires about what's doing well, what's not doing as well, and make adjustments to delivery in real time, so that you don't have to go in and submit a whole new IO and insertion order. You don't have to go in and manually change your plan. The software does that based on the goals that you set. And we can now build audiences that are based on much better data that allow us to, for example, be confident in knowing whether we're reaching consumers who are in market and ready to take their purses and wallets out and buy right now today, versus people who might be newer to your brand and may need a little bit more time to build awareness and cultivate. So the tools are immense, but it does require a bit of flexibility in the buyer's imagination to be able to fully take advantage of these capabilities.
I think that you had really honed in on something too, that because that reporting is so quick, that takes out some of the fear factor and some of those barriers of entry. You know, if people realize that, okay, you do get reporting back, they're more apt to try it, because, I think people are kind of lost in this whole mindset of like, well, once you advertise on TV, you don't know. But this is different. This is a different car engine than TV. Yeah. So we are getting different results.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah. And this one too, as we were chatting through the webinar prior, I think is a really important point as well. It goes back to how consumers today are just, they're on email, or they're on, different digital channels, they're on YouTube, or they're on, as you mentioned, the TV is the biggest screen in the house. They might start off on their mobile device and then go to a tablet, and then go to TV, and then a laptop. I mean, consumers are fragmented over so many different places and channels. I'd love for you to kind of just talk to us a little bit about how this, kind of integrates into the world of CTV.
Yes, and I will say that that problem that you described can cut both ways on connected television. So a traditional TV buyer, accustomed to getting reporting back that's all sort of endorsed through the currency that is Nielsen, knows that they can get show level. They're able to get show level details on their buys. And they're able to then aggregate all that information to be able to come up, for example, with a holistic view of what's my reach, what's my frequency, and therefore how much more should I spend if I want to increase either of those things. And you put that together with traditional studies around brand lift, and you can really get a nice view of your upper funnel. If you bring that same exclusively upper funnel approach, though, to streaming, what you find is that you might end up placing a buy with, and I'm making this up for illustrative purposes, but maybe you place a buy with a little bit with Max, and you place a buy a little bit with Peacock, and a little bit with Paramount Plus, and a little bit with Bravo and ESPN, and you could go on and on. The challenge there is that those networks, those streaming networks, don't talk to one another. So the marketer is left going, well, what about my total audience reach? What about my total audience frequency when I have these ads running in these individual network environments and they're not sharing data in a way that makes it easy for me to aggregate? It's a challenge, and there are ways around that challenge, but it is a challenge nevertheless of applying the linear television thinking and bringing that over exclusively into the world of streaming. What our customers and what Mount customers are learning here is that taking an audience-driven approach can wipe out a lot of those problems. And what I mean by that is, rather than saying, I want to buy that show on that network, what I really want to do is reach my strategic target audience, however you define it. And then let a platform decide wherever it is they're watching, including, by the way, whenever they're watching counterintuitive programming, let the platform deliver the ad. And by counterintuitive programming, I'll give you an example. I love the Golden Girls. I admit it. I'm fine with it. It's an 80, for those who never know.
Right there with you.
Thank you. It was an 80s sitcom about four, retired age women living together in a retirement community in Florida. And it was a comedy, and it was hysterical. I was not the demographic then. I loved it then. I still love watching it. It was aged very well. Anyone targeting me based on that age, gender demo would say, oh, he's a male. Let's just advertise on sports, because he's a guy. He's going to like sports, right? If you take that approach, guess what? You're going to miss me every time I'm watching Golden Girls or anything else that doesn't fit the stereotype. So taking an audience-driven approach really allows you to kind of go around that problem and know, okay, I'm going to reach this consumer wherever they go. And it makes it much easier then to focus, okay, then what happens to that audience after they've been reached? How many times are they visiting my website, and what happens after they visit my website?
Right.
What actions do they take?
Yeah, that is fabulous. That is definitely at the heart of when you really get into the data and can understand, my world of like purchase patterns and then target based on that. It's not necessarily the traditional demographic that you think it may be, but you're listening to what the data is telling you. And it sounds like this kind of goes hand in hand with that, basically with what you were just saying. And, I was looking at some of the KPIs that you listed out, and yes, please, 6 times more site traffic and 2 times ROAS. Tell me more, tell me more.
So important context here is that over 90% of Mountain's customers have never advertised on television before. They spend on paid search and social, but they're new to TV, and they're drawn to the power of television the way all advertisers have been. They're able to get on television with a much lower investment level than what it's typically required of them to get on, say, a cable channel. And so they're coming to us, and then they dig into the audience targeting, that a lot of it, which has been built over the years, kind of in the domain of advanced television, which gives some behavioral segments on top of Nielsen age-gendered demos. And marketers who come from the world of search and social can look at some of these audience labels and go, I feel like I need a master's degree in another language to be able to understand what these things are. Don't you have something that resembles the keyword targeting that I use in the environments that I know really well? And the answer with Mountain is yes. We built last year a keyword-based audience builder called Mountain Matched. And as the name suggests, the technology matches advertisers to consumers who are most likely to really love that brand and then take whatever the desired action is downstream. So, Mountain is a self-serve connected TV ad platform built primarily for performance marketers. And so what those marketers do is they can go into the tool, build a keyword-based audience that then identifies the consumers who are most likely to buy today and serve ads to that audience. And when we see advertisers use this, that's where you start to see these kinds of improvements in performance relative to more like self-reported, like attribute-based audiences. Like, I love baseball. I love, I drive an SUV, other things like that don't necessarily tell a marketer, well, okay, but are they shopping for any of those things?
Right. The power of, knowing somebody's intent, what are they likely to do? What are they likely to shop for versus just what do they look like demographic wise, or an interest in sports, maybe or maybe not. It's Golden Girls. But, when you can get further into the data through that intent-based insights, that's when the magic happens. So, I think this is such a great, great tool that you have. And so with that, stay data-driven, stay creative, and we will catch you next time. Thanks all.